Not yet.
Okay.
It's preparing. It's setting up. It's done. Okay, we're live.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is the February 6th meeting of the Washington County Committee for Community Involvement. We're having a special meeting tonight to discuss the Washington County Strategic Plan Update with Deputy County Administrator Danny Ledesma. And with that, I would like to turn the meeting over to Danny to lead us through a description of what we're going to work on tonight.
Great, thank you so much. I believe Eka will run the PowerPoint. Is that okay? Well, before we start the PowerPoint, I just want to reiterate just my thanks to everyone for making the time out of your regular schedule to be here tonight and for inviting me back. It really is, it doesn't go unnoticed, like how flexible you are in sort of doing this. So I really, really appreciate this. And hopefully this won't be the last time we talk, but wanted to make sure that you had the latest and greatest around our strategic plan update. And so what I was hoping to do tonight is to literally run through pretty quickly a brief presentation and then to ask you some of your feedback about the presentation. And I understand that you have some questions, and I do have a couple of answers prepared that I'd love to talk through with you. And I think we can achieve all of that if I get started right away. So why don't we do that? Eka, if you wouldn't mind starting the PowerPoint. So this is part of our community engagement portion or phase of the strategic plan update development. I was with you earlier with our chair, Catherine Harrington, and one of our commissioners, Pam Treese, where we talked a little bit about sort of the work that was going into the development of this plan. And you were so instructive and provided a lot of really good feedback. And I've heard and continue to hear the board really sort of take the feedback from our stakeholder groups and really sort of try to work this into the plan. So want to thank you in advance for all of your time and thoughts on this. So what I was hoping that we could do in this slideshow, if we go to the next slide, is just do a quick walk down memory lane. So give you a little bit of history and context, which I hope we can start to answer some of the questions that you've had. Talk about the components of the plan, going back to that how, why, how, and what. Talk to you a little bit about the process that we went through, show you the latest and greatest in terms of our draft plan. Bruce has probably heard a lot of this already, so he's doing double duty here. But want you to sort of be able to take a look at that and then talk about engagement, about feedback, and then next steps after February. So if we can go to the next slide, as you'll recall from the last time that I was here with you, we talked about sort of like why this type of update and not a wholesale strategic plan, why now, and what has been done in the past. And so this slide right here really sort of outlines the sort of like nearer history since the 1980s of strategic planning in Washington County. So we have a pretty robust history of strategic planning. However, in the early aughts, you'll notice that we started to, have like a really big plan. We've condensed the plan. We've updated that plan, but it was never really formally adopted. The county for quite some time has been contemplating, how do we set the direction? How do we really sort of talk about the new sort of one Washington County ethos and sort of like provide that prioritization? And at first, I think folks were contemplating a wholesale, community-wide, comprehensive sort of like community visioning process connected with a strategic plan. And the timing was just not right. So we pivoted to doing an update where we took a lot of the components from this last update of the strategic plan from the early aughts. And we decided to really focus in on the how, what, how, why, and what, and to acknowledge the fact that upon the recovery from the from the pandemic that our systems were in need of building at Washington County. And so we wanted to sort of take this opportunity at this moment in time to build those strong management systems so that we could really build the muscles and prepare for something that is much more wholesale and much more community-wide in 2028. So this strategic plan update, I can tell from some of the questions and the feedback that we heard from many of you before, is rather internal facing. It is a strategic plan update of the services of Washington County that the government provides. And so I know that you had, and I think the chair does it rather eloquently in many of the questions that you had around some of the larger issues, really sort of not going to be resolved in this plan, but this plan is really helping to think about the county's leadership team and how we can sort of more effectively serve residents within our current purview. In 2028, we'll be moving into a full sale sort of community vision process where much of that will be answered. So we can go to the next slide. And on this next slide, it just goes to telling you about the elements of the plan. So I think the last time I was here, we didn't have all of these done, but we have an introduction. It basically provides a little bit of an overview about Washington County as a community and the relationship of the strategic plan document to that community and what we're trying to achieve through this strategic plan update. There's a vision process that provides a long-term view of Washington County as an organization. And then the mission, which provides that sort of like purpose statement. It's like the two sentence like elevator speech, if you will. And then guiding principles. And this was something that prior to my tenure at the county, that the Board of County Commissioners worked on and sort of thinking about what are the values, the concepts that really are the foundation that guide the organization as it's trying to pursue its mission to serve the public. The 4 fundamentals describes the sort of like how. It's a general sort of like guide to approach. We don't just want to serve the community, but we want to serve the community in a certain way. And these 4 fundamentals really get at that. And then what is new and what we'll spend a little bit more time talking about are our organizational goals. So every department and office provided a description of what the work does, and then also a goal that is really a snapshot of the work that's being done and how it's being done. The other thing that's new is this appendices, which really are supporting level documents about Washington County as an organization and its services. And we can go through that. If we go to the next slide, tell you a little bit about our process. So this was done, if you can imagine, like if you think about like shuttle diplomacy, right? What we were trying to do is make sure that the board, which is the governing body of Washington County, had a chance to provide direction, input, discussion at these roundtables. And that happened beginning in November and went through January. And then what we tried to do is provide some proposals for discussion and then come back at the next meeting where we wanted to have the board, finalize the draft and sort of basically, update it and approve it so that we can move on to building the whole document. So in November, we talked a little bit about the why. So we sort of grounded in really trying to infuse that one Washington County ethos into the mission and the vision. And we started with the 4 fundamentals on that approach on the how. In December, we came back and had really good discussion about the 4 fundamentals. And then we moved into providing input and direction into the organizational goals. And in January, the board finalized the organizational goals as well as the draft. And this was done in part at the January 11th roundtable. And then on the January 23rd board meeting as a result of some final sort of making sure that we had the right draft for the board. So we go to the next slide. This right here is a copy of the strategic plan update. It's the draft. I'm really proud of this draft because it's a beautiful copy of it. And so, Ika, if you wouldn't mind clicking on that link below the draft. And this is where you can see the fully sort of designed documents. Uh-oh. And then would you mind sharing the draft? I don't know if you can share that draft copy. What we see, Ica, right now is still the slideshow.
Sorry about that. Let me go ahead and share.
Oh, you're doing wonderful. If it was me, the computer would have shut down. So you're doing great.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, so if you click on, keep on going down, scroll down, and then see the, oops, right there where it says up a little bit. That one right there. Sorry. All right. So this is the update itself. So if you wouldn't mind scrolling with me, I'll kind of take you through it. So if you scroll down, that's the title page. And it also includes the introduction and the table of contents. So you can see which page. And I know that some of you will probably be more interested in other parts of it. And then if you keep on scrolling down, here's our vision, and you can see the vision statement there. Keep on scrolling down. You can see our mission. Keep on scrolling down. And then our guiding principles. And this was something that we weren't able to share with you before, but here they are. And you'll notice that the guiding principles really are kind of like that value statement. So wanted just to point out that they include mission-driven, accountability and stewardship, integrity and trust, equity and inclusion, valued employees, collaboration. And so then we get into the 4 fundamentals, those 4 approaches. And so the first is we operate with a collective mindset, right? We really think about the group before the individual. We build capacity in a positive culture. So this is looking inward and thinking about how we can grow our skills, get better every day, really taking that sort of growth mindset approach, and also wanting to make sure that we're creating a positive culture where there's positive interactions, we're assuming the best intent about everyone, and really trying to think about how we, as an employer, as a partner, are really making sure that interactions are positive. On fundamental 3, we talk about our role as a partner. We hope to be a dynamic partner. There are times when we are in the lead as a partner, times when we are a supporter, and there's some dynamism that's required in each of those. The last fundamental is we prioritize critical needs. And this is the part where, you know, we want to make sure that we continue to be responsive to needs as they arise. And we also want to make sure that we're focusing our resources on as a county-wide, and think about our role as providing services to unincorporated Washington County. So we can keep on scrolling down. The next section are the organizational goals. And so there's 5 areas of organizational goals. So every department and office is contained within one of these 5 areas. Each of the areas, one of the things I really like, I'm so thankful that we have a chair like Chair Harrington, because throughout this whole process, she was like, well, this is an internal facing document that is really trying to make sure that our employees and our leaders are really clear about what we're doing. She really took to heart wanting the average Washington County resident to be able to understand. And so originally we just had a list of goals, and in the past documents, it would just sort of say like the goal for Health and Human Services is this. And she said we should really describe what they do so that there's some clarity, so that folks were like, why isn't Health and Human Services talking about economic development? And it's like, well, if you look at the description, it sort of basically talks about what their purview is. So in Health and Human Services, we have the Department of Health and Human Services. If you can keep on scrolling down with me, how the Department of Housing, which is inclusive of our Washington County Housing Authority, the Library Services, and then the Office of Community Development. Our next section is public safety, and public safety is like super exciting because it includes not just elected officials from the Board of County Commissioners, but we had great collaboration with our elected county sheriff, with our DA, with our judge. So we have the sheriff's office. We have community corrections, the juvenile department, the district attorney's office. Don't forget the law library and justice court. The next section, which I think is a lot of interest to people here, is land use, transportation, and economic development. And that includes our land use and transportation department, as well as our Office of Economic Development. The next section is assessment and taxation. And that includes our Department of Assessment and Taxation, which also includes elections and recording. And so they do everything from, making sure that taxes are collected, but also recording, important documents like deeds and other things like that. You can keep on scrolling down. The next section, and this is the section that I think is so exciting, is county government, right? These are all the sort of like internal facing support organizations, departments, and offices. So it's inclusive of human resources, facilities, fleet and parks, West Side Commons, finance, information and technology services, our county council, our Office of Equity, Inclusion, and Community Engagement, emergency management, sustainability. So that's the goal section. You'll notice that one of the things that I really want to make sure that folks understand is that an important stakeholder, as important as the CCIs and our ACRE group, is staff. And so our county leadership engaged with our board and sort of developing and proposing language, the board sort of like editing, providing feedback, and there was like a real back and forth. If we keep on scrolling down, the appendices includes the timeline that you saw on that slide from earlier. It also includes this document that talks about our sort of strategic update. And we'll come back to this part in next steps. But one of the things that we really are focused on is how can we build these management systems so that we can have a one Washington County, so that there are, not only a financial plan, a capital improvement plan, service level assessment, our employee, continuing to engage our employees, but department level work plans, how they will operationalize the goals that are stated in here, and then how will they identify key performance indicators, outcomes, the financial resources needed to do that, so that we have a one Washington County dashboard. So at any time you can look in any of these 5 areas of government and see sort of like, how are we doing in trying to get to the outcomes that we hope support these goals. The last 2 documents, I suspect you've probably seen before, but it's a diagram of Washington County services. And then the next one is basically kind of like a diagram of shared services between if you scroll back up, it's a diagram of shared services between the county and other departments. And so we wanted to make sure that you saw all of that. So that is the document, and we are really excited about sort of like where we got to in terms of this document. I want to talk with you really quickly about community engagement. So sorry, we got to go back to the PowerPoint, Ika. You're doing great. If we can get to slide 8, we can talk about community engagement and where we are. And then we can start addressing some of your questions and also some questions that I have for you. So here we go. So I think you've seen this slide before. So the board, in sort of thinking about the development of the strategic plan update, identified 3 primary stakeholder groups and then the general community. And so you'll notice that it began in November. We really wanted to make sure that we were engaging ACRE, CCI, and CPOs. And so we've been trying to update you through the development of this, have opportunity for questions. And then starting in January and into February, also think about how we're engaging the general community. So we go to the next slide. So you'll notice that there's a link right here, and it takes us to the sort of like, here's the update. So when you click on that, we were just there when Ika clicked on the link, it takes you not only to the strategic plan update, there's also some historical documents on there. And there's a survey that we're asking Washington County residents to take. Hopefully you may take the survey as well, and maybe even send it to some of your friends and neighbors, because we'd love to sort of like get the feedback. So if you, and just so you know, we've sent this out to quite a few different listservs. We've sent it to CPOs, to our boards and commissions, to our sister cities. We've also sort of did a boost on Facebook. I've never been part of something like that, but apparently it's very effective. So we're trying to make sure that people see it on social media. And a couple of my friends who aren't very government focused were like, hey, I saw that thing about Washington County in your strategic plan. So hopefully it's working. And so if we can go to the next slide, one of the things I was hoping that we could get your feedback is some discussion questions. And so there's 4 discussion questions. You'll find this in the survey as well, but I'm hoping that we can kind of do some round robin, get to you providing some of this feedback. But I also know that you have some questions. And so I don't know, Bruce, I might ask for some of your assistance here if you think it would be better to answer the questions that you have first and then come back to these feedback questions where I can ask you these questions, or if you think we should do these questions first. It's really
I suggest we go through these questions first, since the other questions range over quite a broad span. I see Fran has her hand up, and that usually means she has something to ask or say. And Fran, do you want...
I'm sorry, I didn't see you, Fran.
That's
No,
okay.
That's okay. I have a real major question, so maybe we should interject it. I presented to you earlier, Bruce, and the steering committee, so you can decide when to put that question forth. Okay?
I have captured your questions, and we'll cover them in the course of this.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, I see we have a couple of people in the attendees who have their hands up, and I would like to give them a brief moment to weigh in.
Absolutely. Bruce, would you mind, I can't see everyone. Would you mind maybe helping me with facilitate this? And I know you know everyone too. Would you mind just sort of like going through and seeing where the questions are?
Seeing, I beg your pardon, could...
I don't see anyone's hands up.
Oh,
So
in the attendees, we have 3 people. Yeah, I would like to hold off on their questions until we have a chance to go through the 4 questions, which I don't think is going to take a lot of discussion. So the first question, if you could just read it off to us.
Sure. So I think one of the questions that we're asking folks is, as you think about the plan, what is compelling to you? Like, what is most compelling, and maybe why? And this is the one where, we're hoping that you'll share, like, when I go through a strategic plan, or when I look for something, I turn to this page first, or I read it all the way through and pick up those things. So maybe folks can, either state it in the chat, or, can kind of popcorn out.
Okay, I think that the CCI members can just sort of raise their hands and go for it if you have anything. Mary, what do you got?
Have to figure out how to unmute first. So the thing that really struck me was the use of the word community over and over again without community really being defined. And I think it's a word that it is maybe overused, and it definitely has a specific meaning for Washington County. And, when I hear community, I think people, but Washington County is made up of so much more than just the people. Are we including businesses? Are we including farms, forests? What is included in community? And that's just what really struck me, was that initial confusion about who we're talking about. And I'm hoping we're not just talking about the residents.
Great, thank you. Other
Which
folks,
one?
what is compelling? What stands out to you?
Do you have something? Well, I'll weigh in a little bit. I was able to participate in the County 2000 plan and the draft update in 2005. And the thing that's compelling to me is we don't have a documented structure that matches the world of the county today, and updating that so that we have stated direction and we've covered bases that haven't been covered is very compelling to me. Fran?
Yep. Yeah, so my reaction to as I read it, and maybe what Bruce was just saying is that I did appreciate the what seems much more complete documentation of what is in the various departments and all this sort of stuff, the current structure, or maybe some hint of what the desired structure is, but I don't see a strategic direction of the structure. My background, my career was strategic planning, so for a lot of years. And so I'm looking for like the very upfront goal. What do you want it to look like? And I don't see the query it doesn't beg that question to me. And I'll save my other bigger question for later, but I do appreciate the mapping of things and the way that you presented that part of it. And I concur with Mary that, for instance, in CPOs, we want to encourage business leaders and others to participate, builders, developers. We need all of those components, not just committees of this and that. And too many of our committees across have all been stovepipes. You have a meeting with this group or a meeting with that group, and not the cross sections where people actually talk to each other. And I think it would be nice to see. I think a good thing would be if this structure exemplified that purview. I mean, that preview of everything. Anyway, that's my.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move on to the next question. Is there something missing from the draft that that somebody would like to offer? Mary, what do you got?
I see that employees are called out and the community-based nonprofits are called out. Nowhere do I see the volunteers being called out. The volunteers for CCI, CPO, boards and commissions, and volunteers who might be in other groups that support. And I really feel that is missing from almost every avenue. You know, it's not part of the vision. It's not part of the guiding principles. It's not part of the 4 fundamentals. And I think volunteers contribute a lot to the county and they need to be recognized.
Thank you.
Thanks. Eric, did you have your hand up?
I did. At the risk of being repetitive, I want to honor and repeat Fran's comment. I think that this, to me, as a linear thinking guy, looks like a car, but there's no destination on the GPS. And so I really think that it's the car is beautiful, it's well built, but we don't know where we're going to drive it. What's the end goal? And so I think Fran's point was really exacting. Also have to echo Mary's point about volunteerism. Born out of the CPO and CCI programs, essentially the county cannot run on paid staff alone, and that the volunteers also get something out of volunteering. I can give you long stories about that, but I really think that the mapping out what the volunteer contributions are and as data points and active participants would be an appropriate element to add to the program. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good. Nice points. Anybody else have something missing from the draft that you would like to see included? and I will get to the attendees before too long. Participants, I mean, attendees. Yeah. Okay. I think in this discussion, we have covered other changes. Virginia, what did you got?
I'm sorry. So I did share the part about you guys wanting feedback in the February issue of Cedar Mill News, but I don't really, my dilemma is that I don't see what's in it for the average county resident. And you say it's an inward facing document, but I really didn't know what to tell my readers that they're going to get at the end of this process. And I know that's a really big open-ended question, and maybe I just haven't been paying close enough attention. But that's my observation.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing that.
And of why is this important to just
My readers.
your readers of that? They are you. And Danny, if you've not gone through the Cedar Mill News, I encourage you to check it out because it really covers a wide variety of community subjects. I see that.
Well, it's about the only news outlet that really gets into depth with the county for the most part.
Indeed, it does. So Fran's comment in the chat is that climate is missing. Dealing with climate change, resilience, accommodation. We just had 2 or 3 weeks ago the weather trying to kill us, and it seems that acknowledging that and what steps can we take to deal with climate issues is important. I think that I would like to forego number 4. How do you describe the direction in the next 5 years? Because our questions will pretty much cover that. And so to that end, so the questions that we came up with.
Oh, actually, do you mind if I just
I don't.
Do you mind if I just talk about some of the next steps? Because I think that will also help inform the discussion with some of your questions as well.
Please.
So we're the thing on the website with these 4 questions is open until I believe the Friday before the February 20th. I forgot the exact date, but we'll have that. So it's open if you don't mind sharing these things. And thanks you for folks who've already done that. If you don't mind, there's just a couple more slides I wanted to show.
Go ahead.
So really, thank you so much, Aika. So on the next slide, there's a couple of important dates. So on the 20th of February, the Board of Commissioners will have a work session. So this item will be on there where I will take all of the notes from here, all of the notes from our friends at Acre, and I will also summarize all of the whatever comes in through the website and other feedback. And summarize that and propose, potential edits for the Board of County Commissioners to consider based on sort of the feedback that we've gotten. And I'm always so excited by the fact that Washington County residents and Oregonians are not shy about sort of getting in there and making really good edits. And it's really, I just want to thank you for how thoughtful your comments have been to date. So thank you. So then after that work session on the 20th, after their discussion, we'll kind of take their direction and then propose a sort of finalized draft on the 27th. And that is an evening meeting. And we hope then that the board we'll potentially move to adopt the strategic plan update. The strategic plan update is from 2024 to 2028. And so we are starting to work in earnest to develop this work plan. So we can go to the next slide. So one of the things I wanted to, one more slide. This one. Okay. So one of the things I wanted to talk to you about in terms of our next steps is sort of some of your questions. There were sort of like, we were kind of not broad enough and then not detailed enough in this plan. And so I think where some of the detail is going to come from, for example, I think there was like a question about like, our asset management plan and thinking about like long-term capital needs. And so if you'll notice that we have a capital improvement plan, we have a long-term financial sustainability plan and budget that we're working on as well. A service level assessment where we are sort of taking stock of all of the services that the county provides across all of those different departments and agencies, and sort of talking about sort of like, which of those are required by statute, where are they being provided, like in what locations, who is benefiting from those, and what's the resource compared to some of the need. So so a lot of that I believe it was Virginia who talked about like, kind of what's in it for me. If you think about this strategic update, it's part of a series of other management's tools that we need to be able to get to that comprehensive vision, that sort of roadway. And so I think I loved, I think it was Eric. I loved your analogy of the car, and thank you for saying that we were a nice car. I think what we're trying to do with this plan is to let people know, like, this is the car, right? And like right now we've got capacity to build the car, but that road that you want to see, like, where the exits and everything, we are building that, right? In order to be able to tell where we're going, we need to be able to have some of these things like our service level assessment in place to understand the some of the financial outlook that includes sort of like a sort of understanding of both the state budget, our county budget, tax levels. All of those pieces will go into helping us get ready for that like community vision, or that roadway that you're looking for. And if you look over, in the very far right-hand corner where it says that community vision, that's what we're trying to get to. And so I really appreciate how you are hanging with us, in that this isn't as toothsome of a plan that you would like, because there are some big questions that are still out there. And I think what I would say is that this plan is a reflection of kind of where we're at, right? A lot of those bigger questions have not been answered yet. And given the sort of where we are in sort of post-pandemic, post-recovery, if you will, we're trying to sort of like build that system. And so it is rather inward. It is sort of like, how can we shore up so that when we do sort of like, reach out to community members, that we do it in a way that's like comprehensive and holistic, that we're not missing wide swaths, that we're not, forgetting to think volunteers, any of those things, but we're really trying to build those muscles. And we'll have, several years of work plans, of indicators, of tracking our outcomes, our activities related to those outcomes, and our financial resources that get us to that place. So I really, I hope that you don't feel like my answers are glib or trite in any way, where, I may just say, we're just not there yet, or that's in process, or that's part of the next phase. So as you know, whenever you have like a large sort of strategic plan, there's then how do you operationalize that? And so some of the questions that you asked will come through the operationalizing of this, and are in the purview of those departments, who will sort of seek to do that. And, I think we want to be really clear that this strategic plan looks different than, it's an update. It looks different than ones in the past, because it really is a snapshot of where we are. And that is the sort of like clue that we all have of sort of like where we are is going to help us get to where we need to go. But we don't purport to have, full sail. This is where we think the community, the broader community, Washington County should go, because we're really sort of inward focused now. So, and I would encourage you to kind of re-listen to the meeting with the chair, because I think she describes this in a really eloquent way, and she has a lot of integrity in terms of recognizing the role and her purview and not wanting to overstep, but also really taking ownership of her role as the chair of the Washington County government. So so that is coming next. And the great exciting part is that because you recognize the role of volunteers, we're hoping that we can continue to build out these pieces with you, and we'll continue to sort of ask to be on your agendas to talk about sort of how their development, how it's going, the relationship to the strategic plan update, and to future thinking. So
Okay, I have a couple of questions. I know that the sheriff's office is working on their strategic plan.
Mhm.
Is that being done in conjunction with the county's strategic plan?
Yeah, so our new Sheriff Massey, is fantastic. And one of the things that's been really great about working with her, and then several other departments that are also working on their strategic plans, is that, I think we're being a little slippery with nomenclature. Not everything is a strategic plan, right? These are like, department plans, or, county government strategic plans, right? But for the most part, what everyone is doing is, we are asking them to sort of like start to get organized, and we'll take each of these plans and put them together in terms of the work plan. And then we'll be able to have some congruence in a dashboard there. So Sheriff Massey is in charge of that strategic plan, but she is a great and fantastic collaborator and has been a delightful to work with. And I see, even in some of its early development and our conversations with her and Aaron, my colleague Aaron Calvert, there's so much congruence. That sort of ethos of one Washington County definitely applies across all of our departments, and we're really fortunate that we have elected officials who are so collaborative.
That's wonderful. I bring up the sheriff's strategic plan because the Acre Committee was interested in the public safety component of the larger strategic plan, and that will be that I want to make sure that the sheriff's strategic plan is included in discussions, and I recommended that their advisory council get a review of the sheriff's strategic plan, and then extend invitations to both the CCI and Acre to view the discussion of that strategic plan. I can tell from your discussion that a lot of our questions really are going to be addressed in the work program part of this, and are not really necessary to discuss at this point in time. So thank you. And I see we got Virginia with her hand up. What do you got?
Hi. It's sort of the elephant in the room in the Washington County is always the urban unincorporated areas. And I saw it mentioned as like a footnote on one of the goals or whatever, but is that all it is?
No, it's not a footnote, but it really is, it's sort of work that's going to be happening there. So one of the questions was about sort of like, when's the discussion going to happen about some of the incorporation or annexation efforts? And I think I think one of the things that you all probably know better than me, given your longer history in Washington County, is that both our comprehensive plan, our policies, and our strategic plans have long sort of indicated that cities or special districts are probably the most appropriate providers of municipal and city level public services, while the county really is positioned to focus on county-wide services. And so while there has been some past interest in incorporating some of the unincorporated communities, none have really occurred. And so most of the right now, basically most of the urban unincorporated areas are covered by urban planning area agreements, or the UPAAs, with existing cities, with North Bethany being one of the exceptions. The county expects that these urban unincorporated areas, will gradually annex into the cities based on development activities or individual parcels or through other planning efforts. But at this point, I think the sort of managing through those UPAAs has been sort of how it's been there. And as you can imagine, this is not just
several of us are going to be dead before that happens.
Well, yeah. So Danny, thank you very much for that overview. There is a need for a strong discussion about that because there have been a number of attempts at incorporation or annexation that have been stymied. And so I don't want to spend more time right now talking about that, but you're hearing a very loud message that while the county the current commissioners did not build the unincorporated area, they inherited it and live with it. And so we have a considerable amount of input to provide for you that will help in guiding it. So with that, I'd hear what Fran has to say.
Yep. First, I want to acknowledge Mary Lou had a really good point. I think I have an extrapolation of that. She said, is there a document that describes the difference between where we are now and this new plan? And Danny, as I listen to your thing, and help me make sure I don't overstate, oversimplify. It sounds as if we didn't have a lot of these pieces in place. So that last foil that you showed with the different metrics or the goal.
Yeah.
Okay, so you said when we start doing this or when we start doing that, it sounded as if we don't have a lot of those particular pieces in place, which is alluding to Mary Lou's statement. What did we have in place and what's different here? And what it sounds to me is this is doesn't seem to be the strategic plan. This is the assessment for a strategic plan. In other words, you said, I mean, what you measure is what you get. How do you know what questions to ask?
Sure.
If you don't know where you want to go, the reason I say this is everybody in this company here probably has experienced the questions that get asked on the surveys are very directed to lead the end result they want. And this becomes, very frustrating because we don't know. I mean, you have a preconceived idea of what you want. So
I think that
I'm just gonna leave it there, but I'm just, yeah.
It was well made. And so where are we going with this is something that would be very helpful to add into the prologue to the discussion of the strategic plan. So with that, I'd like to give the people and the attendees with their hands up a couple of minutes to discuss. So Eka, if you could, okay. Oh, and Gretchen has her hand up. Okay, so let's just take the first attendee and let them have a minute or two. Donna?
Oh, I am not making any comments. I'm just listening in. Sorry.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Thank you for being here.
Laura Bolender, go ahead.
Hi. I am Laura Bolander. I am a new member of the Beaverton Committee for Community Involvement. And I wish I could see everybody's faces during this discussion. But I'm more than happy to share my thoughts with Ika one-on-one via email, but I think these are my big points, and feel free to save these for later or stop me if you feel like these are not relevant right now. I've also been in Washington County for about 7 years and been practicing public involvement for about that long. If the purpose of the document is not super clear to everyone involved at this point in the process, I really feel that the purpose of the document should be stated in the introduction. I concur with other voices here that strategies are usually informed by something, usually quantitative or qualitative data, and doing surveys and analysis after the goals are stated does seem counterintuitive. I'm concerned that this document isn't super accessible to the average Washington County resident because there's 11 visions, 6 guiding principles, 4 fundamentals, and that leads to 21 different priorities that often overlap. There doesn't seem to be a mention of steepening economic disparity or how these issues might be addressed equitably using pre-existing infrastructure and processes, such as ensuring that folks get proportionate fines to their income. Employee value and development are mentioned several times in the priorities, but not at all in the goals. I'd like to see that relevant employees are mentioned in those because they are relevant in every single area. There doesn't seem to be enough emphasis on sustainability for my liking. Beyond trees and parks, for example, championing infill development before expanding the urban growth boundary, prioritizing fully supported walk-bike roll options between nodes of activity like neighborhoods and shopping centers and schools. I have to admit, it is kind of weird to see goals without benchmarks or KPIs or other metrics for success, or even a SWOT analysis, such as strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats analysis. And there's no comparison of how the goals fulfill or meet the priorities mentioned above. The goals right now seem to be written at a college or graduate school level, and I'm hoping for some simplicity, some who, what, when, where, why, and hows. And I'd like to see the goals really speak to the future, not necessarily describing what this agency or this body currently does. In the appendix, the county and state shared services diagram has a column for revenue generating services. And the justice courts do earn money based on the 2023-2024 budget, while libraries are neither part of a branch of our government or generate revenue. And for this reason, I think museums and libraries should be placed in human services, and the courts should be rightfully placed in governance and revenue. In the future, I'd love to see future budgets include line items for subsidies and other tax relief over a noteworthy amount so the public may quickly and clearly understand how much potential revenue was lost. The strategic plan and survey was not offered in Spanish, but Spanish speakers were a group that was specifically mentioned in the introduction of this document. And last but not least, this meeting would definitely fall apart, the presentation, the notes, without Ika, and now it's in the public record that she should get a raise. Thank you.
Laura, I am so grateful that you, as a member of the Beaverton CCI, took the time and interest to join us tonight. That is exceptional. And I think that, like a lot of our questions, a lot of your issues are going to be addressed in the work program part once we get the overall strategic plan in motion. So, Danny, it looks like you're leaning into that.
Definitely. Thank you.
So we have another Amir in the attendees. Hello, Amir.
You unmuted me.
I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello, Bruce. I was there when you got voted in as chair for Washington County. I haven't been on for quite a while due to concussion, but I'm glad to see everyone back on and the meeting getting back on. I heard someone mention about social media. You guys have Facebook, is that correct?
Different groups have some amount of social media, yeah.
That's interesting. I was wondering if Washington County has a TikTok. Or if not, maybe we could propose a TikTok social media for Washington County.
You're so hip. Thank you for mentioning that. I know that and it's my ignorance. I'm sure that our comms team has like a whole thing. I do know that like on Facebook is where we sort of did the boost for the survey.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure about TikTok though. We can follow
Oh
up.
no, it's just a curious question.
Amanda, go ahead.
Yes, we do not, the county does not have a TikTok account, and most likely will not due to our limitations for our ITS and internet security.
Okay, I see. Thank you.
Thank you, Amir.
On though.
And if you would like to be involved in helping either the CPO or CCI have a better social media presence, then I welcome you to contact me.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, thank you very much. And Gretchen, hello.
Okay, now somehow I didn't get promoted, but that's okay. My comment is that the majority of population is not going to have an opportunity to learn about this plan until the public meeting where you're suggesting that the board adopt this strategic plan update. And I think if you're interested in getting realistic input from the public, that there should be a detailed discussion of the project at that meeting, and then it should be rolled over for 30 days before the board would adopt it. It's not fair to the public to bring it up to a meeting, a workshop in the morning when the public generally is not available, and then the next week going to adopt it without allowing genuine input from the public.
So
Thank you.
I want to be sure, Gretchen, that you caught that what's going to be approved in March is the process for the strategic plan update that will be then fleshed out by a work program. And
no, I understand that, Bruce, but this is going to be very intimidating to someone who hears about this the first time at the meeting on whatever the date was. I can't remember right now. But I think they're going to be overwhelmed. They wouldn't have a clue of what this is. And it really would be much better to allow people to ask questions and make comments over that next month and then go to the final adoption in March.
I would say that an acid test for that would be if you can name your county commissioner, you can ask questions. Most people couldn't name their county commissioner. So thank you. Jim, what do you got? No hand. Okay. Mary Manso, what do you got?
So I want to go back to the organizational goals and specifically OAICE's organizational goal. Nowhere in that is it mentioned that one of their roles is as manager for the CPO CCI program. And does that mean we're such small potatoes in terms of that organization that we don't merit any sort of mention in one of their goals?
So again, I think this is one of those things where it's like an altitude piece. And so there are many sort of like not just through OEICE, but throughout many of the departments where the specific partnerships or the specific programs are not mentioned. And there was a lot of back and forth about sort of like, how do we keep this at a higher level so that there's sort of at that next level that Bruce reminds up I love that you called it the work program. At that next level of sort of like, department work plans where that will do there. It's in no way, any indicator in terms of value or anything like that. It's just that all of our departments were given instructions to keep this at above the program level.
So can I respond to that? Because
of course,
I think our program already feels like we are mismatched with OEICE, and their program goals focus entirely on, the equity, diversity, and inclusion piece. There's no conversation in there within that goal or any indication within that goal that the CPO program and CCI exist because of goal 1, and that our focus is really on land use issues.
Well, and you'll notice that in the LUT program, in the LUT department, there's no direct conversation about any of the goals there. So, I hear what you're saying, and I'm sorry it's having that impact. But what I can say is that, this was the direction per the county chair. This was the direction per myself and the county administrator to each of the departments. And so in no way, shape, or form was OEIC, sort of, making a slight, with intention.
But I think it would have been really easy just to add another sentence to that goal. And it, I guess I can submit my comments to the board.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for making that comment.
Okay. Well, Fran, what do you got?
Yeah, real quickly, I put this in the chat, but I don't know if you're familiar, but we need to recognize that there's a measurable percentage of our population here that cannot access online, whether either they don't have a computer, they're blind, or some other disability, whatever. And then a lot of our rural areas don't have enough bandwidth to download a document of that size. So I'd like to make sure that we access those, if we're talking about justice, equity, diversity, inclusion, let's sure that we have a good coverage of the total population, please.
Thank you.
Excellent. Well, we've hit our time of 1 hour. We've covered a lot of ground. I think Danny has gotten some good comments. I will say I've asked Lanny Parr, the Beaverton public involvement manager, to put me in contact with Laura so we can have more of a conversation. And Laura, if you would be willing, it sounds like you had written out some of those comments, and I would really like to see your list of comments and to have a conversation with you, and invite you to another Washington County CCI meeting. I thank you so much for those contributions. It's exactly the kind of thing that we're looking for. Does anybody have a comment for the good of the order before we end this meeting?
Thank you, Danny, for all your work here. Yeah, I know we're pounding on you, but we all want the same best for our county. And we put in a lot of hours, all of us, to try to get the best solutions for our county. So thank you.
Thank you very much. And I hope that you know that I take all your comments, and this is an opportunity to learn and to grow and get better. And so I really appreciate you taking the time. And again, I can't thank you enough. I know that this is sort of out of your normal cadence of meetings. And so having a special meeting to do this, and all the pre-reading and the questions that you asked before, like just all the thoughtfulness, I think is really special. And thank you so much for doing that. And I guess one of my takeaways is that I hope this isn't our last time together. I hope that we can
continue to
talk about these. I hope that you'll continue to invite me back. And in terms of like your, so I'm taking notes, Ike is taking notes, a couple of other staff are taking notes as we are listening to this. I won't ascribe to a certain individual, and my job for providing feedback to the board is to sort of surround is to sort of pull out big themes. And so I look forward to your review of the feedback document, and hopefully I hope that you see your voice and your feedback in that document. And I really just thank you for your time and for your thoughtfulness. I'm really excited, and I'm really excited to keep on working together. I think that there's such a wealth of experience in this virtual room that I think that we're in really good hands, and I really appreciate all the volunteerism that is occurring here. And I think it was I forget who it was that started it out talking about like, what does community mean, and community being such a big word. And so I really am looking forward to kind of thinking and experiencing community in many different ways with all of you. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you. And thanks, Eka, for your management of the meeting. And to each person who contributed, we're grateful. And the work actually is just beginning on this.
That's right. And Bruce, you run a great meeting. I was like so nervous. It's 8:03. We did it. Way to go, Bruce. Thank you.
Okay. Well, I appreciate the feedback. I'll take both the positive and the not so positive. And with that, I would say class is dismissed.
Hey, Bruce.
Yes, ma'am.
Quick question. Laura sent her notes to Ika. Would you like us to add them to your minutes?
There's something with your mic that's hard for me to hear.
Oh.
Laura sent her questions?
Yes, Laura sent the questions to Ika. Would you like us to add them to your meeting minutes?
Yes, please. That's wonderful. Thank you so much, Laura. And thank you. We'll be in contact.
I just wanted to mention to the people who might not know, this has been recorded on YouTube. So if you have friends and colleagues who might benefit from taking a look, I guess we can post it on the CCI Facebook page, or maybe OEICE can publish a summary and a link or something.
Well, it'll be in the meeting minutes. And
yeah, but I mean, that's like, ugh. I'm thinking about while the iron is hot and people might want to tell their friends and neighbors.
Okay. We've been recorded for posterity. Thanks, Virginia, for doing that work too.
Maybe Danny could include that link.
Yeah. Well, hold on, I can get the link.
Well,
not right now.
We do have the YouTube link in the minutes, and because of the timeliness of the survey ending on the 16th and the board meeting on the 20th, Ika and I were furiously working on those minutes during this meeting so that we could get them turned around really quickly.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Amanda.
Yeah. Okay, now class dismissed.
Thank you so much. Have a nice evening, everyone.